Boom! So we're on air. Perfect timing. Because I've lost my stuff already. Where did I put it? Where's my megalodon tooth? I've lost my megalodon tooth. I had this awesome megalodon tooth somewhere. Hang on. Just give me 1 second. I've lost my megalodon tooth. Aha! I found my megalodon tooth and my headset as well. And now,
Okay.
Hey, so how are you doing?
Hello.
Hey.
You see that?
Ooh, shiny.
Shiny.
No, I don't know who wants me to sign into bloody Google.
Bigger than my teeth as well. So, yeah, that's actually a medium-sized megalodon tooth. Apparently they hunted whales or some such. But I've got to admit, there is something vaguely disturbing about sort of poking yourself with a tooth this size, especially such a large predatorial tooth. I don't think they would have had any interest in eating people. But yeah, it also got me looking at some of the videos online about these things. And there's all sort of cryptozoology that goes on about these critters, you know, speculating that they might be alive in the Marianas Trenches, which of course is
I doubt that.
bullshit. But
Could I have a radio check? Is this working?
hey,
Ah, working. Wonderful. Thank you.
it's working.
You have to excuse me, I'm eating my dinner.
That's no problem. I just finished a little pizza myself. So, how y'all doing?
Fine.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
Have you seen the video that I just put up?
It's a bit wobbly, but yeah, it looks all right.
Yeah. So the new project is I want to monitor the human metabolism in real time using mass spectrometer.
Couldn't you rent a mass spec machine though for a month or so?
You could, but the thing is that there's actually more than one reason that I want one of these things. It's on the grand scheme of things, this is dirt cheap for a mass spec, right? For the things that they use professionally, you're looking at about $1 million. So $30,000 is fairly cheap. But the thing is, it only does masses up to about 300, and at that, it only does them with a relatively low resolution, like plus or minus 1 atomic mass unit. With a lot of the real mass spec machines, you're looking at you're actually looking at the binding energy of the nucleus. They have, you know, 1,000th of atomic mass unit resolution, which is just completely crazy. There's no possible reason why I'd need stuff like that.
Oh, really? So could you even see like metastable states? And yeah, like technetium, for example.
I don't actually know.
Because there must be different energy, right? So, yeah. Probably so small though. Ah, Dave's here.
Actually, they might do. I mean, because they're not that small. The difference in the binding energy of these things, usually in the mega electron volt region. I don't know what that equates to in terms of mass per nucleus, but it's actually no. It will be
like 900 mega electron volts, isn't it?
Yeah. Hey, Dave, how you doing?
Hey, Phil.
So, have you debunked any crazy pseudoscience crap recently?
I'm not sure. Have I? I think I've taken a rest. It's just like too much.
So, one that you should maybe think about looking at is Skorkel.
Skorkum.
Skorkel. This is it's a sort of, what's it called? The Triton. It's a Triton type device, apart from it's Australian, which is why
great.
and it pulled in at about $1 million Australian dollars. And it's basically a metal bottle about this size, which you pump up with a hand pump. And they say it's going to let you breathe underwater. Apart from I saw it when it came out, but never quite got around to debunking it.
Great.
But now they're into everyone's worked out that this is never going to arrive phase of the Kickstarter.
Got it.
So
no, I did actually. I did debunk one. It was a mobile phone app. It was called the Bat Bump. So it was a mobile phone app that claimed to be able to recharge your phone battery via the near field communications coil, and it was absolute bullshit. So I debunked that, and then my video got flagged by the.
I saw that.
creator.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yep. Under grounds that I used her name in the video. So if you can't do regular tech journalism and put and show a Kickstarter campaign in a video, then, every video in existence could potentially get taken down because the person in it can claim my name's in there. Nuts.
Yeah, I mean, YouTube's kind of been all over the place recently. So this month, I actually got I got a strike on my account from a video from, I think it was 2015. This is back when I was doing some different genre of videos, and it was, greatest social justice warrior hits from whatever year it was. It was years ago, and it got flagged as being bullying, I think, which is a little weird, seeing as it had been up for years. I mean, as far as I knew, the video was getting no real traffic. Weird time for it to go down. So I wrote to YouTube, and they said, well, we'll escalate it, and I heard nothing since. So a couple of weeks back. So who knows?
Yeah, well, that's what happened to mine. They it eventually got my video got approved, so their strike got taken down. Their strike got but the problem is that I I accidentally had their phone number in my video. And I tried very hard to not put that in because that doesn't meet my personal standard of, but it was on their public website.
Exactly. I mean, with a lot of these things, I try and sort of blank them out as a sort of courtesy thing. Yeah. Although I'm deeply skeptical whether anyone, if they know it's on their website and you've got the screenshot in there blanked out, they can just go to the website. I mean, it's a sort of, it's a sort of more, just, I'm not going to be a jerk about this. I'm going to blank it out, but.
Yep.
I don't think I've really ever heard of anyone actually calling these places.
No. So but I don't want their number in my video, just in case, right? I don't want to be accused of, something like that. And it's just, there's just no need, even if their phone number's on the website. I don't see the need to put it in. But anyway, this person, this girl who did the campaign, she went into crisis mode. And she not only removed the Kickstarter within like a couple of hours of my video going live. That really is panic mode. Yeah, that is panic mode. Not only that, she deleted her website. As within like 5 hours later, her website was gone. Her LinkedIn profile, she changed names on her because she had 4 names, right? She went by 4 names in the Kickstarter campaign. So she changed her LinkedIn profile name twice to try and avoid people. And then she finally took down her LinkedIn campaign and her LinkedIn profile, and she just tried to erase herself from the internet.
It almost feels bad, doesn't it?
So I'm curious at this point. I mean, was it because there's always this dilemma: are they doing this because they're genuine scammers, or do they just think they've got a really good idea that no one's thought of before? And because sometimes I think these people don't actually realize what they're doing is complete crap.
Yeah.
And
same here.
After that, once people give them this huge sum of money, what they're going to do now?
Yeah, I believe that's the case. I believe she was either advised by somebody that, oh, this is a thing, she probably came up with the idea, or, somehow brainstormed it, and she was advised that, this is okay, this will work, and she was just clueless. I mean, she isn't a tech person. So she's a filmmaker, she's a video, she's a, and I think, she just panicked and realized that, the entire internet's against me now, and maybe it won't work. And then she changed the campaign. Within an hour of the video going live, she had modified the campaign, first of all, to then basically admit that it wasn't going to work. And she's going to get, she just wants the money to develop the shell of the app, not even the app, just the shell of it. $50,000 to develop the shell. And then an hour after that, the campaign went down. She realized that, it wasn't actually, it wasn't a good thing to take money just to write an app that literally admits.
You've got, if you just pull the plug on it yourself, okay, you made a mistake, that's fine. If you take the money, it's a lawsuit waiting to happen.
That's it.
With a lot of these things. So, there's two updates. The Fontus finally got one of their water bottles working.
Really?
And, well, working is a bit of a harsh
quote marks.
Yeah, exactly. So they got one of these bottles, and it's in a humidity control environment. So it's in a climate chamber.
Yeah.
100% humidity, 30 degrees. This is like freshly getting out of the shower. And even at that, it takes a full day to get 1 liter out of it. Yeah,
of course it does.
And they actually have the video up. Right? They have the video up on, you go to their Kickstarter, they got a link to the video. The video is private. It's got terrible ratings, nothing to do with me. That's just the organic rating. But it's when you get 100% humid, this is like tropical rainforest type humidities, and they barely get a liter per day. And the other one is the water seer. You remember that one?
Well, which one?
Oh yes, I remember that.
The mushrooms that were going to pull water out of the desert. If you take a look at what they've got now, I forget what it is. It's like a 0.5 kilowatt. I mean, it is literally just a 0.5 kilowatt dehumidifier. Wow. And you take a look at the specs, and a regular dehumidifier.
Match up.
Exactly. Yeah. But they're some pretty slimy piece of work they are, because they've had several attempts to re-release this, all with this pulling on the heartstrings about the poor people in Africa. And they, some of it, I mean, is really slimy stuff. That look, we went to get schools to sponsor a water seer for Africa, and
if you're against it, then you're against starving people in Africa.
Exactly.
It would be more effective if they just dug wells.
Yes. Yep. Or the ballpark calculations is you could transport water from anywhere in Africa to anywhere else in Africa, and it's still cheaper than running one of these dehumidifiers.
Wow. So what do you how do you analyze the project at that point? Like, is it does it become a deliberate scam at that point, or
So all of these people must have realized by now that what they're pitching is fundamentally not possible.
Yeah.
The water seer, I think they were scamming from the start, and they kind of got lucky. I mean, you take a look at you take a look at their company, and it just oozes PR bullshit. All right, I mean, maybe they were just a little naive about this, but yeah, when you take a look at how they were sort of pitching this, you know, think about the starving children. It just and the immaculately glossy PR. It just it stinks of scam.
Can I mention something about this? So I was just going over your video at some point about, I think it was the water seer, and it was more related to the thermal dynamics of this. So the only thing I would mention is that I went through all the the calculations before, and the only thing I would mention is that the heat transfer when the temperatures are actually quite similar, isn't that heat transfer efficiency like greater than unity? So like, isn't it like, is that correct? Or
yes, that's called that's called the coefficient of performance, and it can be greater than 1. It can be greater than 100%.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you I'll just send it in the chat if that's okay. So if you take a look at even the numbers here, if you just go to COP refrigeration Carnot. Now this is the Carnot or Carnot or whatever cycle. It's like, I mean, this is the ultimate efficiency, and it will take forever. It literally would take forever to actually get, but you can get fairly close, I think. And if you do that for small amounts, it's like their efficiencies are quite high. They're like 20x, or so, like you can even see some of the real life examples, I think, in this paper here. But yeah, at the end of the day, like I guess it's sort of a question, but it's sort of like, isn't the movement of heat through like the transfer of heat at temperature differences that aren't that significant, isn't it greater than unity efficiency? So for a heat pump.
It depends what your the coefficient of efficiency can be greater than 1. So the thing about refrigerators is they're kind of engines running in reverse when it comes to the heat cycle. So when you're coming to trying to get useful energy out of heat, it turns out that almost the only thing that matters is the difference in the temperature of where you start and where you finish. And the higher that is, the more efficient your engines are. And the reason virtually all engines are where they are is because the higher temperature is the flame temperature, the adiabatic flame temperature, which is about 3000 Kelvin or something. And the other one is room temperature. It doesn't really matter where it is.
But in reference to the water seer type thing, right?
When you're doing it in reverse for refrigeration,
but that's what I sent here. So here it has both equations, and I mean this is like second year thermodynamics, right? This one's refrigeration, and the other one is, I think, like a heat pump, so the inverse. And then you can see the two efficiencies. So I guess here's what I would say is that I think if they actually used a heat pump in reverse or a refrigerator, they could get really high efficiencies. But they're not. They're using like a, what was it, the little electrical version.
Well,
that's the thing. I actually did this in my water seer video. I actually included the coefficient of performance and looked at the data sheets for the Peltier devices. And it turns out the Peltier devices that they're using, you can get coefficient of performance up to about 3 or 4 times, something like that. But at the power that they're using it at, which wasn't the full power of the device, it actually drops below 1.
It's a matter of definition, really. It's really a matter of definition. I mean, for the heat output of a heat pump, it's always greater than 1. You always have more heat out than you put in. So
yeah, it's like Q in versus Q out plus the work done or whatever, right?
So and if you look at the data sheet for the Peltier device, it can actually go it can go below 1.
Okay.
Yeah. If memory serves me correctly, but it's very low. So
and then related to the humidity, right? So there's the dew point, right? So I don't know exactly where the dew points are, but like at 100% humidity, is it not correct that as soon as something drops, any cooling will produce dew? right? Effectively.
Yeah.
But then I'm trying to remember what the curve looks like, but like as it goes lower and lower, so it's like 70% or whatever, then you have to cool like 10 degrees or more, right? To start getting dew, right?
Yeah.
So I tried to do some calculations myself, and I went through, even because you are cooling the air, so that means that you have like the actual heat capacity of the air, right? And that, but you could reclaim that maybe a bit, but yeah, well, like thermodynamically you could.
The low efficiency heat pumps are a nightmare.
Yeah.
You know, because if they were easy, we would use them for everything. And maybe the most useful place for them is heat storage. You know, this sort of thing where you sort of pump water over the roof, over a hot panel, then into the ground in summer, and you heat up the ground, and then you sort of get it back in winter. You actually store quite a lot of heat. Like, they're
or like molten salt or
great.
something.
Well, it doesn't even have to be molten salt, but they're fairly low efficiency.
Yeah.
But they're not bad. I mean, they're still sort of marginal technology. You need the right environment to get it all to work. So I know a guy who put one in Germany. The problem is it turns out that just a few degrees difference in the ground temperature can make a huge difference to growing things in your garden.
Mm-hmm.
So they actually heated the whole garden up by a couple of degrees, which meant they couldn't grow vegetables anymore. It's just one of those unexpected consequences. The heating bills went down, of course, but
I mean, it's better than direct heating and cooling.
Yeah, I mean, they are energy-saving devices.
Pretty good. Our new library has one, but it doesn't work because people always open the windows in the summer, because even if it's warmer outside than inside, apparently when you open the windows, it's supposed to get cooler.
Yeah.
I could rant about that for hours.
So this was another one of the videos I was planning to make this summer, was the relative cooling of just a fan. You can get these little aerosolizers these days that are sort of misting cooling things. Have you seen those? They're like a little ultrasonic thing that generates.
I have one here. Oh, they're amazing.
That generates the mist or whatever. Yeah.
They're actually pretty good, but on small scale, you can't. You get the thermal camera on them, and they're actually fairly impressive. But again, it's essentially doing the opposite of what Fontus wants to do. That you're using the huge energy to vaporize water to cool things. And then they actually sell just, well, they're essentially swamp coolers, but on a small scale. And in terms of just cooling you, turns out blowing a fan on you is actually really quite good because you're fairly moist on the skin and you get quite a lot of cooling like that. And of course, an air conditioner, it just blows everything out of the water in terms of how much cooling you get out of it. But then again, they're power horse. Another one though I did actually try was I'm on the top floor. So the idea comes in as well. The simplest form of the swamp cooler is you just get a little water spray and spray water on the roof. And it takes this huge amount of energy to evaporate water, which essentially cools the house down. The thing that I didn't quite calculate is, you would know this, Dave, from your solar panels, is in principle, you're going to get sort of kilowatt per meter squared on the roof there. That's a third of the power of a kettle.
Exactly.
which means that that there's you get a large roof and you're going to get rid of a lot of energy. And all of a sudden, just very simple things. Almost the solar panels are fantastic in themselves because sure they're hot, but they're off the roof, and so they're keeping the heat off the roof. They're actually sort of doing a double purpose there.
Have you done one on Tesla? You've done one on Tesla's solar roof, haven't you?
I haven't, but
oh, you haven't. Okay. Yeah, I did one. I was going to do another one because some people have now published their results. They've actually got them installed and they've published their data. So, yeah, I was going to do like a follow-up video to that, but I don't know. It's like it's just not newsworthy at the moment, you know. It's just
the Elon Musk fanboys are hardcore.
I know. I've got my my big forum that I run on my website, and anytime I mention that Hyperloop is bullshit, a lot of them, you know, there's a lot of them jump in.
So I mean, I can. There's part of me that, all right, you could rave about it as a marginal futuristic technology. It's never going to happen. But let them dream for a bit. But then you come on to the things like where he's proposing launching rockets to go from place to place on Earth. And they're defending this. I mean, this is like, and then I came across this video of his literal PR woman saying that, we're going to get around, we're going to make it much more efficient by flying the rockets 10 times per day.
It's not more efficient.
Why is it?
I mean, these things are about the size of the space shuttle, and the space shuttle takes hours for fueling. Right, just to get the liquid oxygen, they have liquid oxygen tanker trucks coming in for some days beforehand to sort of store up these big fuel tanks, and then they transfer it to the big rocket. They want to do this like 10 times a day.
You just can't.
Just, I mean, Musk has done some pretty cool stuff, but it doesn't mean that every single thing he proposes is wonderful.
Yeah. But I mean, that's one of the one that bugs me is that the video that I did about his rockets actually, there's a lot of people who buy into that shit. And I mean, I'm a great fan of technology, but it's not a magic wand.
Right.
I don't think he has much input anymore into what SpaceX are doing because all of their stuff works.
Yes.
No, but isn't he into SpaceX? Doesn't he spend most of his time there? Tesla's the one he really wants to ditch, I think, because Tesla's going down the toilet.
Yeah.
You know, and he's not putting any money into Hyperloop. That's just a kid's school science project. Yeah, really.
But I think that's not serious. He's got people at SpaceX who know what they're doing, basically.
I mean,
Richard Branson going to put a lot of money into Hyperloop.
$500 million, I saw.
Yeah,
who did?
Something like that.
Who put $500 million in?
Richard Branson.
Richard Branson. Oh yeah, because he actually went out there to see it. What a dick.
And
sucker.
For some reason, they were going to build it in Spain, and I just couldn't quite figure that out. I mean, why Spain?
Less guns.
Maybe, but if you're going to build some like $500 million infrastructure model transport system, at least build it next to a decent sized city and have it go somewhere.
Yeah, true.
Although it could spin off into a non-vacuum based version, and then everyone will say, "Hey, look, here it is," and the vacuum
version trains.
Trains in tunnels.
It's not a train; it's a tubeless hyperloop. This is the thing which I'm sort of half kicking around as a sort of scam Kickstarter. Is the Scram Loop. I don't know whether you saw this.
I saw that,
because it's about as viable as the Hyperloop, that you've got the metal tube and you've got the aerodynamic bit going down the middle. That's basically a scramjet. And you've got the low pressure environment. It's all there. So you can go Mark 10. Which means that it's not that you can go from LA to San Francisco in half an hour. You can go from New York to LA in half an hour.
Yeah. And what about all the underground tunnel things with the cars, that take the cars on little personal thing, it's just the traffic flow's not going to talk to any traffic engineer. I'm sure they'd tell you it's not going to work.
And so he proposed building the Dodger Stadium.
That's right, the Dodger Stadium.
which is like great. So you're building basically a tiny metro.
Yeah.
Well, that's completely revolutionary. And then you took a look at his numbers, and he was like, "Oh, it's going to take an hour and a half to drive it," and you just sort of type it into whatever. And even when the traffic is bad, it's like half an hour or something.
Well, even when metros are built successfully, sometimes they're underutilized. Just look at Los Angeles.
So I don't actually know anything about the LA metro system.
Nobody uses it. That's the problem.
Okay. In which case, what? It's massive infrastructure to build, and it's not pulling in any revenue.
Everyone drives. There's some traffic.
So
Sydney's the complete opposite. We're one of the very few major cities in the world who actually run heavy rail lines directly into our central business district. Everyone else uses the lighter, faster, more frequent metro trains. We actually run heavy rail into our main central, right into the CBD through tunnels and other stuff. And it's our system's famously just totally overloaded, and it's just ridiculous. They are building a new metro now. There's a tunnel just opposite my office here, but it's, we'll see how it goes. But still, most of the network is just heavy rail, and it's not very efficient. It's terrible.
Is this the same problem as the British infrastructure, which was all built in the Victorian era?
Something like
that. All the cities have grown up in the meantime, so you really can't change it.
You can't change it. Yeah, exactly. Same thing here.
You're saying that, but in Moscow, the metro system works so well. I was honestly really surprised.
I've heard good things about the Moscow metro as well.
I mean, it's not very safe.
I've heard that too.
But it's pretty.
I thought that the London metro system was very good.
It is.
When I went there, I was very impressed.
It is
quite nice.
Considering the age of a lot of the stock and the infrastructure, it works really well.
But my brother's girlfriend lives in London, and she was saying that on one of the lines, the temperature was 40 degrees.
Yeah.
Why? Why did it get that high?
Because it's basically you're dumping heat into it year after year, and it just slowly heats up. And it's to the point now where it wouldn't be legal to transport livestock. But, with all of the big city metros, no one can afford to close down one of the lines. They just,
no, that's right.
No.
People have, they need this to get to work. Otherwise, there's just nothing else they can do. They bought their house for this metro line. You close it down, and it's just not viable.
Yeah. Now, the London Underground, they're very gradually improving the air quality in the deepest systems. A lot of them, as you say, are Victorian the tunnel systems. But they've just finished a £30 million refurb of London Bridge Station, which is about the oldest station in London on the metro system. And a lot of the tube systems, because London Bridge is interconnect between the overground rail, heavy rail, and the lighter tube system. And the next step is to bring air down to the deepest systems, but some of them are 100 feet deep. And it's a problem because there's all this infrastructure on top of them now, which wasn't there before.
So I've got a question. What do you know about HS2?
The high-speed scam. High-speed scam.
It's costing some obscene amount of money. It's like $500 million for a single rail line across England.
Yeah. I worked for Balfour Beatty. I work in IT, by the way. I worked for Balfour Beatty at the time when the Channel Tunnel was being built, and that thing was a sink for money. And I think a lot of people came out of that very rich through kickbacks and whatnot. There was a big scandal about it, and Balfour Beatty pretty much went broke afterwards.
And then they sold it for almost nothing. But once the infrastructure exists, it makes money.
Yeah, yeah. And HS2 is, I think, more of the same. I think a lot of people are making a lot of money out of it, but and then will bail when the thing sort of goes over budget astonishingly further than it is now.
But can you remember the numbers? It's something like it's in the hundreds of billions.
Yeah, yeah, it's huge.
And there's no line yet, or is there a line? Is there like a track laid, or is there like?
I shall exercise my Google View and see what happens.
So I know that they're way over budget, but I don't even know if presumably they've started building it, but maybe it's still just in the planning that they're building the rolling stock or something.
It says planned. It's planned for 2026 is phase 1, and then 2032 for phase 2.
How much is it?
It's obscene.
No, like as in the cost.
Dollars or
like billions or millions.
Billions.
What?
Big ones, yeah.
The HS2 high-speed rail line will cost more than £400 million per mile.
Oh,
what?
what?
£403 million a mile. That was published in the Sunday Times.
Right. So
did they get the blue cells involved in this planning?
Yeah.
The solar roadway people in for the costing or something, because this is just insane. 400 million.
Insane, yeah.
It would be more expensive than the Star Tram concept, which is like the vacuum tunnel to literally just shoot stuff into space.
Yeah. According to the Financial Times, on the 22nd of July, HS2 costs taxpayers £4.1 billion before work even begins.
Wow.
So yeah, it's one of those.
And £1 billion is approximately 10 quid for every person, just over £10 for every man, woman, and child in England.
It's advanced.
Surely to spend that sort of money, you have to be like buying up land and stuff. I don't see how you can spend that sort of money without actually
doing anything.
Breaking ground.
Actually buying land or digging stuff. I mean, how do you spend that?
Like I said, I think lots of people are going to get very rich before it even gets off the ground.
Wow. And it's just going between London and Birmingham is the first stage. That's
it's nothing.
200 miles. Yeah.
That's great.
So, but just so you know, Britain's got a long history. Basically, any large-scale project that Britain has ever undertaken in my lifetime has just been a cataclysmic disaster. The one that I remember from when I was young is all the rail lines were built in the Victorian age, so they were all too bendy to run high-speed trains on. Now, virtually everyone else in Europe built their high-speed rail networks, which basically straighter lines, so you run things quicker. Apart from England never did. They came out with a great idea that will make trains that actually bank on the corners.
They've done that in Germany.
Well, they tried it in England, apart from it was something stupid like 1/10 of the budget and tried to do it 10 times quicker. And of course, it never worked. So basically, it was the APT, the Advanced Passenger Train. And it just never worked. And
it made people ill.
That's right. Yeah, it made people sick.
Really?
People got motion sick on it. And also, they had all these, because the problem is that when people have their drinks, the drinks would go all over the place. And
wait, but if you do it right, the effective gravitational force or effective downward force is always perfectly down.
Yes, I think therein lies the problem if it's done properly. So.
I mean, as far as I know, the German trains also have rails which are actually on the slope.
Yeah. They've got a canter on them.
Yeah,
or a camber. I forget what it is. But yeah, when England tried it,
no,
and that was when I was young. That must have been the 1980s or something. And that was Britain's last real attempt to do high-speed rail until HS2.
yeah,
So it turns out the only high-speed rail network in the entire England was the one built with the Channel Tunnel, which basically connected the Channel Tunnel to London.
yeah, to
And
Waterloo, yeah,
yeah. So it's what 100 mile,
about that.
100 kilometers, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
High-speed train is actually amazing. I mean, if they would be everywhere, it's an actual alternative to planes and a lot cleaner, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've been on the Singapore. Is it no? No, the Shanghai, the Maglev,
The Maglev
train at 440 kilometers an hour. It's amazing, but it doesn't make any money because it goes between 2 points that nobody really wants to go to. But it's but it is fantastic. It's just absolutely brilliant.
Doesn't TGV produce any money?
It doesn't make anything. So. Yeah, because it goes between the airport and then some place that nobody wants to go to. So it's like,
yes, as someone who paid a lot in kickbacks because the property prices will wherever the terminus is, that's where the property prices go up. People are willing to pay a lot of money to make the right argument for where the line should go.
Yep. So the whole maglev concept, which is of course the Hyperloop concept, is a maglev thing, and it's like it works, it's great.
Yeah.
But whether or not it's viable from a payback point of view in terms of energy expenditure and all that sort of stuff, I don't know. But
I mean, it's an idea that's been kicking around for a long time, and the neodymium magnets were a large step forwards. They made the motors much more powerful, and they make things like maglev much more viable.
Yeah,
but still bloody expensive.
Apparently, there's a new technology there, iron nitride, I think it is, which are being researched currently. Yeah. So instead of with neodymium magnets, you get like 52 mega Gauss, whatever it's called, the energy product. And with the with the iron nitride, you get up to like 150, but they only made it in like thin films currently so far. So yeah,
I was about to say. I mean, obviously, if you make it out of iron, iron's dirt cheap. But the thing is that if it was as simple as iron nitride, it would have been done already. There's got to be something fiddly in there somewhere.
So, have you got any more debunkings planned, Phil? Is there anything?
God, yeah. So I was just looking.
You've got a list
at the list. Yeah. So Space Force has made it onto the list.
Oh no! Oh, there's a world of comment. That's comment hell on YouTube if you mention anything to do with Trump and Space Force.
I'm going to invest heavily in salt mines.
I mean, this is the thing. I mean, what are you going to do in space? You can't put people in there because you can take a look at the International Space Station. It's a $200 billion space station, and it carries about 10 people, right? And you take a look at satellite warfare, and satellites are so immensely vulnerable that there's no sensible way that you defend them. Because the thing is, they're all traveling at all the velocity, which is about 5 kilometers per second, which is more than 10 times the speed of sound. So anything, right? If you actually want to fight, if you want to destroy a satellite, all you have to do is drop a handful of marbles.
Yeah.
and that's it. The kind of combined speed is...
It's crazy. Well, that's the thing. It's the MAD system all over again. If you destroy a satellite, puts so much debris in orbit, you end up destroying all your own satellites. It's just totally mutually assured destruction.
Yeah, I mean, you essentially end up denying space to everyone.
But as we've seen recently, if you have a hole in your satellite, just put your finger over it and you fix it.
Just put some duct tape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, a piece of duct
It
tape.
worked.
Yeah. It's maybe not a permanent repair, but downside better than nothing.
I'm not sure if they fixed the soils yet. I think it's still duct tape. Well, I know they applied some sealant, I think, a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Any more solar roadways? I've almost given up. I was about to do a video, and then you came out. I was contemplating doing a video, and then you came out with yours, and I thought, no, I won't pile on.
they are still rolling along. They're not dead yet.
Well, there's this California. No, where's it? What state in the US has got one now? There's another state.
Georgia's got one.
I was going to do one on the Georgia one, but I don't know. I getting the enthusiasm to do, like, just to devote the energy to do it again is just. I don't know where you get the energy from to keep doing them.
It does kind of get depressing, and I think I get these comments every now and again. Can't you just tell us something positive for once?
Yeah. We're just, anti-technology, anti-innovation. That's the label we get slapped with.
Bar humbug Scrooge type figures, technology Scrooge.
You're crushing all our dreams.
Yeah.
I think you all sound like engineers and physicists. I don't think we've got any biologists in attendance, but some of the junk science that's coming out, or it has been coming out for years regarding vaping and reduced harm stuff, is quite astonishing.
That's hard to debunk, though, isn't it? Like medical type.
It's not hard to. It is and it isn't. The science is easy to debunk, though.
Right.
Because they'll come out with a report saying, "Oh, e-liquids vapor contains as many carcinogens as cigarettes."
That's bollocks. That's got to be bollocks.
Basically bollocks. And they'll cite some study, and then you look at the methodology, and they've run the devices at 500 degrees to generate formaldehyde. But that's the sort of, and it's not coming from left field. It's coming from the WHO. This stuff, and trying to track back where the influence comes from is quite difficult.
Well, there's all so I mean, smoking had a weird history in that they had all these sort of paid lobbyists saying that it wasn't harmful
exactly
for an awful long time. So anyone who says I've got research that shows that vaping is harmless is sort of fighting against those with a memory of history. I mean, for me, look, all you got is some aerosolized sugar solution and nicotine. Nicotine's it's addictive and all that, but
it's not as addictive as is made out to be. Because I mean, I've been vaping for around 8 years now, and when a heavy smoker switches to vaping, they generally tend to need a higher nicotine level to stop the cravings from cigarettes. And when I started, I was smoking 20 a day for 30 odd years. When I started vaping, I was using a nicotine concentration of about 36 milligrams, which is about equivalent to what a cigarette gives you. Now, after 8 years, I'm down to 12 milligrams. And if I can't vape for any reason, like if I'm commuting to work, I don't vape on the train, I don't vape in the office, I don't miss it. You don't have the cravings. Yeah.
So my brother sort of followed a similar trajectory that, he started smoking when he was young, could give up any time he wanted. Until he had to give up. And the next 10 years were because the thing is, whenever he would get stressed, he would start smoking again.
Hey, when I was smoking, I gave up 20 times a day.
This is going to be my last one until.
Yeah, but I haven't had a cigarette now for 8 years, and I have
the same problem with chocolate. I just cannot like. I deliberately have to switch from milk chocolate to dark chocolate so I don't like eat the entire bar in a single day. You know, it's like, it's scary.
But it would be interesting to have some of the pronouncements from people like the WHO and the American FDA and the Taiwanese medical, whatever their authority is, that come out with these statements and ban vaping while continuing to allow tobacco sales.
Yeah. I mean, I've not looked at any of the medical studies, but you know, from what I know of chemistry, I can't see any real all the harm that comes from smoking. It's not to do with the nicotine. It's to do with
it's the combustion products.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you get rid of those, and there's no problem.
No one is saying that vaping is safe because you're inhaling something that you weren't intended to inhale.
This is true. Yeah.
Yeah. Although they used propylene glycol in hospitals for years as an antibacterial.
Yeah.
Glycerin is pretty harmless. The flavorings are the only area of concern, really. So that's the only thing that needs regulation. Is your flavoring produced in a clean environment with known ingredients? Most liquid producers now don't use diacetyl because of the outcry over popcorn lung.
I've got no idea what that is.
All right, it was.
I know what popcorn chicken is, but
right, popcorn lung is it's like the alveoli in the lungs stop transferring oxygen.
Yeah,
and it was discovered in a popcorn factory in America, I think, and the only association they could make was that these workers all had this lung disease, and popcorn, the buttery flavour in popcorn is produced with a chemical called diacetyl. And so they made this association between diacetyl and popcorn lung. There's no actual physical or medical proof that this is the case. It was just an assumption. However, because of the widespread outcry, liquid producers stopped using it. Fair enough. That's the sort of thing that's needed. It's not the vaping itself. It's the liquid that people inhale needs to be regulated, not the devices, not whether it's 100% safe, because it probably isn't, but it's a lot safer than smoking cigarettes.
Yeah. Hey, Phil. Sorry, mate. I have to go.
Okay. Good to see you, Dave.
Yep. I've got kids, so I gotta go take them to school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good luck on the school one.
All right. Thanks, mate. See you guys.
Bye.
Hi there.
Another thing that got my attention this week is the EU are proposing to get rid of daylight savings times.
Yeah, which I'm actually fairly happy about. I mean,
Yeah,
there was always this one. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really see much. Wasn't it Hitler who first introduced that anyway?
No, it was I think it was Britain, actually.
First World War, something.
Yeah, it was to extend the daylight hours or something. But the point of the EU thing is they've chosen the wrong one to keep. They want to keep the summertime 1 hour ahead instead of GMT. Now I live practically on the Greenwich Meridian in Kent. And so there I'm GMT plus 0. I'm UCT 0. Why do I need to add an hour?
But I don't know. Wasn't the proposal that the UK and Portugal would be normal still, and then the whole of Europe would be +1?
Summertime when the living's easy.
Yeah. All you've got to do is look at a globe and look at the latitude. There's your times.
Yeah.
There's your time difference from 0 to 360.
Yeah,
you don't
already
need
an
to
hour
add
behind anyway.
You don't have to add anything.
Yeah, they're going to be 2 hours behind in France.
Yeah,
They do it.
it's ridiculous.
Because they are already an hour behind. So it's like, why?
Yeah, the further east you go, it has a time difference. Obviously,
Yeah.
that's physics.
No, Earth is flat. We all know that.
Yeah.
Flat earthers have been way too active anyway recently.
So I mean, for me, I struggle to tell which ones are just trolls.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm more and more coming to the conclusion that almost none of them are trolls.
Yeah. At least the YouTubers, they are.
Yeah, they actually
probably
believe this stuff.
sincere.
I mean, when I first heard that there are flat earthers, it's like, yeah, right, sure there are. And it's like, no, there are flat earthers.
Yeah, that guy built a. Did that guy with the rocket ever actually get it off the ground?
Yeah. He severely injured himself. But the stupid thing was the rocket only went 100 meters in the air or something.
Yeah.
He could have gotten a helicopter ride.
Yeah.
You know? You don't need a rocket to get that high.
But I don't get it. How can you be pretty smart, but also so dumb at the same time? I mean, okay, rockets aren't the most complicated mechanical things, but still, as a rocket, it's not that easy to build.
Yeah, it's actually rocket science.
The other thing is that people are pretty fragile. You know, it's one thing to build a rocket, then you've got to get the acceleration that it's enough to get you off the ground, but not enough to kill you. Not enough to turn you into sort of a puddle of red goo. Which, you know, there's only an order of magnitude between 1G and death. You know, 10G is not very survivable.
Some of the cosmonauts did like 20 Gs when they ejected, didn't they?
Only
for 4 seconds, and they were severely injured.
Really?
Yeah, and so you can survive short periods of high acceleration, but long term, I think 11G is after that all the blood just drains out. And it's also a weird one. If it's 10G like this, you're much more resilient to Gs than in the reverse direction. Reverse Gs, I think you can take about 4, and then your brain just. Yeah.
Plus that you astronauts generally have better support.
You get the pressure suit on, makes a
and
difference.
same with fighter pilots with the restrictors on the legs to stop the blood pooling. When they take Gs, the flight suit expands in the legs to stop the blood pooling in the legs.
Although it's sort of inevitable that now that we have the self-driving cars, when you take the people out of planes and all of a sudden you're not limited to 10 Gs anymore with turning. And that's probably decisive. I don't know how far along they are on that sort of thing. Of course, the downside is that if someone can actually make a mess of your electronics, your entire fighter force is gone.
Yeah.
It's just like that. You know, decent jamming technology, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's kind of true with current fighters as well, right? Without the electronics, they would be just falling rocks. So
yeah. But they're doing a lot of stuff with drones now. I don't mean the little 4-prop.
The ones that fly around the world and carry Hellfire missiles.
Exactly. I mean, that's the current stage of unmanned aircraft, isn't it? Yeah. They can exceed G-force. They can do evasions that you can't do in a fighter.
These drones are more
long range.
They're slow. They loiter for long periods of time. They're fantastic for surveillance.
Yes, exactly.
And for assassination type things, because they don't make much noise. They're almost impossible to see.
Yeah,
like the image.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because that's the job they were designed for. But it wouldn't take much to make an aggressive drone, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the modern battlefield would look. I mean, but the problem is that for most of the first world countries, fighting a war has become almost impossibly expensive. Like when a single fighter jet costs a couple of $100 million, you lose 20 of them, and well, for England, that's the entire fighter force gone.
Yeah.
So, the hardware is so expensive that no one can afford to fight wars.
Yeah, wars should be decided.
More wars actually be more, fought on the internet between computers, because you'll have a group of hackers, and for example with drones, I remember that there's the control link towards the drones at the beginning wasn't even encrypted, right? So there were actually hackers in Pakistan, Afghanistan that would be able to piggyback onto the control link and actually control the drones.
Yeah.
That's a little disturbing.
Yeah. Until they got like, oh, wait a minute, why is this drone moving and I'm not doing anything? Oh, okay, maybe we need encryption on this thing, right?
Yes.
But so you'd have all these groups of hackers and armies. You always find some vulnerability. I mean, when you have a state sponsor and you have all this massive amount of infrastructure behind you, and finding exploits here and there. I mean, computer systems are just inherently unsafe, and I can imagine at a certain point it just because, oh well, we'll attack. Click. No, you won't. Or your stuff doesn't work.
Yeah. There was always this great fear that all the people who were designing the software systems would put in back doors, because unless you got someone checking for it, how would you know? And exactly. Then you're right. Yeah, I mean, you send the right code, and the entire fighter force is grounded.
Yeah,
but
the reason happens with the F-32, the Joint Strike Fighter, right?
The F-35, the Lightning.
F-35. Sorry, so the computer on board it accepts these battle plans and kind of information that needs to be coded in, and only the U.S. military is allowed to has the facilities to code these things. So every other country that has them has to actually get authorization from the U.S. to launch their own bloody planes.
Yeah.
They're called air taxing orders.
Yeah. Exactly. So I mean, at a certain point, it would just be everybody's just trying to deny each other the use of their equipment until I don't know, we're back to bayonets and gunpowder or something.
The thing that always disturbed me about the F-35 was it was so reliant on the software, and the last I heard is the software wasn't that reliable. Yeah, a software failure basically means you lose the plane. I mean, it just seemed very electronically vulnerable.
It's one of those planes where when you push left on the stick, you aren't hooked up to a hydraulic system that's physically moving the airframe. The computer's interpreting what you want to do and then doing it for you. And you're right, it didn't go very well for a long time.
Yeah. And as far as I know, we were buying the F-35s and we were going to fly them off these two new aircraft carriers that Britain was buying. You've seen them?
I've seen them. I came from France.
I was about to say they're being built in France. Yeah.
And I built in France as well. And I was just taking a ferry from France, and we came past it in where was it? Not Dover. Doesn't matter. It's weird. It's this huge ship, and there's just nothing on it. It's just empty.
But the dumb thing was, we had Harriers. All right, they're actually pretty decent ground attack aircraft, and 20 of them was all that we fought the Falklands War with. But they scrapped all of the Harriers because we wanted to get the F-35 Lightnings. But of course, the F-35 Lightnings ain't going to be here for another 10 years, which is half the operational life expectancy of the aircraft carriers. So these aircraft carriers, or these brand new aircraft carriers, and no planes to fly off them, which is just like,
Helicopters work.
It's a bit of an overkill to get a fleet aircraft carrier for helicopters, but yeah, I mean, in principle, you can, or you can use it for fishing.
Yeah.
At a push, no.
Yeah, it's kind of the Thai military way of procurement. They bought an aircraft carrier and then forgot that they didn't have anybody that knows how to actually maintain aircraft carriers. So it broke once during its first sea trial and has never been used again.
Who was this?
The Thai military, Thailand. Yeah. So they have an old aircraft carrier, which they bought off the French, I think. And they have no staff capable of actually maintaining the thing. So it broke once, and then they were like, "Oh, I don't know." now it just sits there because they have nobody that knows how to fix the thing.
So I remember this from the Battle of Midway. That when the Japanese lost their 4 main fleet carriers, the thing that was most crippling for them is they lost the people with the knowledge to run aircraft carriers, because they take like 5 years to train people up how to in carrier operations. And so the pilots they had coming in from elsewhere, but they didn't have more people who knew how to do carriers. And so when their new carriers came online, they were basically staffed by amateurs.
Yeah.
But aircraft carriers only have 20 years lifespan?
The British, that's what I heard for these new aircraft carriers.
I expected much, much longer, but yeah.
Actually, I think about, I don't know. I mean,
but maybe there's a reason for it.
Yeah, I mean, it might just
they?
be that they're planned to be. It's expected that the technology will have moved on in 20 years.
Ah, that makes sense. But they're not nuclear, are they?
They're actually made out of cardboard. That's when the waterproofing wears off.
Yeah. Well, yeah, just hope the enemy doesn't realize that they're made of cardboard. Deterrent.
I mean, you're laughing, but the Bundeswehr, the German military, they had an expedition and they said they brought their Eurofighter, or one of them. And they didn't. They brought a perfect one-to-one cardboard replica of a, Eurofighter.
That's enough.
And I didn't tell anyone. They were like, nobody's going to notice, but people noticed.
Tap, tap, tap. That's all.
Yeah.
Hey, it's got no radar profile.
That's
it's completely invisible.
Excuse me, your plane is blowing away.
Oh, your plane's caught on fire.
I mean, the entirety of Germany has 10 air-to-air missiles, which is...
Sorry?
The entirety of Germany has 10 air-to-air missiles, which is quite interesting. It's enough for 2 aircraft.
Yeah.
You mean like models or single ordnance pieces?
It's single ordnance pieces.
Oh, wow.
They have 10 missiles.
So that's the other thing that I remember about the F-35 is jack of all trade, master of none. So if memory serves, it could carry 2 air-to-air missiles, which means that you can run out of ammunition really fast.
And the software hasn't even been written yet to fire them.
I didn't know that. In fact, it's been a while since I tried to catch up with the F-35. I know the thing was, in this too big to fail category, that so many people had a vested interest in keeping it rolling. Most expensive project ever undertaken by the US government. I think.
It's quite frustrating.
I do understand Lockheed Martin. I mean, do this impossible thing with as much money as you want.
But I mean, the fundamental problem is that you want a ground attack aircraft, a fighter, and a bomber. All of these really different performance characteristics to the point where you're probably actually better off, certainly with a ground attack aircraft, a specialist craft. Like the A-10, something that can loiter in the area, something that can fly fairly slowly, and so it doesn't overfly the targets too quickly. And with fighters, maneuverability is everything. So,
I mean, I get the whole concept behind it, right? Is that it wasn't supposed to be the same airplane. It was supposed to be basically the same airframe, and a lot of components between the different models, so that if one breaks, you could
supply chain.
Yeah, exactly. That was the whole idea behind it, but even that is still fundamentally a very difficult challenge because, like you say, a ground attack airplane and an interceptor, the airframes are just going to be so incredibly different that you can't make it work by even by trying to share components and using the same basic airframe. It's just not going to work.
And I forget what there was this absolutely scathing criticism from one of the generals in charge or something. It can't climb, it can't turn, and it can't run. That's the F-35.
Yeah, I read that quote somewhere as well.
But yeah, we already had the A-10, the F-22, and the B-2, and we really didn't need the F-35.
Yeah, I mean, the B-2's fantastic bomber. The Raptor, that's the F-22, yeah?
Yeah, we had just gotten the Raptor, and it performed amazingly, and then all of a sudden, no, we're gonna replace it with the F-35 soon.
Yeah.
No, from what I've read somewhere that the F-35 was also that the fuel has to be at a certain temperature. So at some of the airplane, some of the bases in the desert, they actually had to paint the fuel trucks a different color because from the point of them getting the fuel out of the ground, out of the depots, driving to the airplanes, refueling the airplanes, the fuel would get too hot. And so they had to like have a special sun reflective kind of paint on the fuel trucks to keep them cool enough, because otherwise the engines wouldn't start up.
I could believe it. This is the problem. The more technology you put in it, the easier it sort of screws up.
Yeah.
There's a certain simplicity. I mean, even if you take a look in something like a Harrier cockpit, it's pretty rudimentary. I mean, you're into direct hydraulic controls. What you do with the stick is just sort of pumping pistons around the place. None of this fly-by-wire stuff.
I've seen some MiG-31s recently, and they are really impressive planes. Wasn't even
in the air, or I mean,
no, in the air.
Any fighter plane is monstrous in the air. I mean, the noise they make just sort of emanates.
But
power.
Especially because it's like 23 meters long.
Yeah,
and it goes Mach 2.8. It's absolutely insane. I didn't see them going fast, only slow because they were landing close by. But yeah. I mean, it was fun for the first 2 hours, and then I did it at 4 a.m. and it wasn't fun anymore.
Yeah. So they're astronomically loud, yes?
God, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any comment on the new electric aircrafts, considering that there are like chemistry of batteries and such?
It's that they're always going to be burdened by the fact that batteries just don't have the energy density. They got about almost 100th of the energy density of gas. And even when you include other factors like you only get 30% useful energy out of your fuel, with the Carnot stuff, there's still almost an order of magnitude less energy in a battery, a kilo battery, than there is in a kilo of fuel. So that makes a huge difference. A decent passenger airliner, I think they're about 150 tons loaded. About 50 tons of that is fuel, 50 tons of that is plane, and 50 tons of it is cargo. So, you know, about a third of the weight of the plane, maybe a fifth, something like that, a third to a fifth of the takeoff weight of the plane is fuel. If you can't, to get the same energy in batteries would be 10 times the weight of the plane, right? To get that same amount of energy in. That's always the problem that you're going to get with the electric planes.
Yeah, and they don't get lighter; they stay heavy.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly it. You know, a passenger plane landing is 30% lighter than when it took off. With batteries, it's going to be exactly the same weight. Which, in fact, if I remember rightly, the big planes, they can take off fully loaded, but they can't land fully loaded. They're going to dump the fuel. So I actually had this on one of the early flights I had when I was a kid, is they had to come back and land because one of the doors wasn't shut. So they had to jettison tons of fuel to actually get down to the landing weight. So yeah, I mean, I don't see electric planes going anywhere, let alone the Elon Musk thing of the supersonic vertical takeoff and landing electric jets, which is something else that was on the debunk list that I never quite got round to.
And no change from like the chemistry side of things. So like no hope for a much more superior battery.
Your problem will always be that if you pack much more energy in than you've got at the moment, if there's any failure in the battery, it'll lead to the loss of the aircraft, because it's not like gas. With gas, if there's no oxygen there, it's safe, right? So you can't really get a big failure with a gas tank. Especially sort of self-sealing gas tanks. They're fairly safe and all right. I mean, you make a big enough hole, the gas dribbles out and all that sort of thing, and it can catch fire. But it's not like a battery. If a battery starts to fail, the energy released from the partial failure of the battery leads to a total failure of the whole energy. I mean, you're looking at losing all of that energy in one go, which it destroys the aircraft.
But even still, is there any examples of batteries that have that potential for a high failure rate, but still have like the energy storage entities? Right.
So the only thing that comes even remotely close is lithium oxygen batteries, and they've got all sorts of problems. The biggest one is there's a large volume change, right? So if you imagine you start off with just lithium, and then you stick an oxygen atom on it, right? So you've doubled the mass of the electrode, right? When you go from lithium to lithium oxide, it doubles in size, right? These aren't, right? Not all batteries don't change volume when you charge and discharge them. They do slightly, but it's essentially nothing. All of a sudden, your batteries can change in volume by 50%. And on top of that, lithium, which is pretty much the highest energy density stuff that you're going to get, that's pretty nasty stuff. If that catches fire, well, that's it. Whole thing's gone.
Oh, I was wondering about things like Uber Air. What's your take on that? The air caps and stuff.
The little flying car thing.
Yeah.
I saw that. That was actually not bad. That's by far the best effort that I've seen at this. But yeah, my reckoning is you get about 3 minutes flight on one of those things, and it's not really going to get any better than that, because otherwise you need bigger. You have the whole thing. You need bigger engines on it, which means you need more batteries to get the high thrust. So I think they've just about managed to get one person in an ultralight aircraft off the ground. I don't know what their flight time is, but I'm going to guess it's minutes, which means that you can just about go up and come down again.
Stuff like that is getting a lot of traction in Germany. I don't know if anybody could corroborate this, but many politicians claim that we are going to have air taxis in a couple of years for the price of an ordinary taxi ride, stuff like that.
2 years, that's a little far-fetched.
I've not looked into it, but I would be, right, first of all, they're noisy. Then there are the safety issues of, I mean, I might trust a taxi driver to not screw me over on the fare. I'm not so sure I would trust him with 3-dimensional flight. Now, the only way I would do
there's
this,
no taxi driver. There's no taxi driver. It's
automated.
Yeah, it should be automated. That's what they claim.
Okay. If they, well, I mean, even at that, there was talk that Amazon was going to use this to deliver parcels. Yeah. They were going to use automated drones to deliver parcels, and I heard that about a year ago as well. And yeah, I think there might be issues about flying these things around if they're not stunningly reliable. But I don't know. I mean, because 3 minutes, if you think about it, you can actually fly quite a distance in 3 minutes. If you're talking about air taxis, but then again, your problem's going to become charging the batteries. If it then, for a 3-minute ride, you've then got to charge it for an hour.
Yeah, and they obviously they plan to exchange the batteries. So yeah, stuff like
You've
that.
also got to consider all the other air taxis that are in the same airspace.
Yeah. Well, the reason I'm asking at the beginning, I just thought, well, this this must be bullshit. It's a sort of the stuff when in 1920 somebody told us we don't need landlines because we're going to have mobile phones soon, stuff like that. But then I watched one of your videos on the helicopter type drones on Mars, and at the beginning I thought, if this is going to be a debunk video, this is bullshit because of the thin atmosphere or something. But then I was a little bit surprised. You basically, well,
checked out all the lines. I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
except cooling.
Sorry?
Except cooling. I'm not sure how they want to cool it. Maybe like transiently, so it heats up and then let it cool
I mean,
down.
That's the thing, is you would sort of need a heat sink, but I don't. Right, if you're only going to run it for a few minutes, you can just sort of have a thermal mass there, right?
Yeah.
Heat. But of course, that's going to cost you weight. And the whole thing's going to weigh less than 1 kilo, which it's.
But you can use the actual battery as a heat sink. So as a thermal mass at least.
Yeah, but the way they were actually building it, the whole thing was like super insulated because they didn't want it to get too cold when it wasn't flying. But then, of course, that worked directly against you the second you want to get rid of the heat when you're flying.
But I'm sure they thought about that. No.
Well, I don't know. They seem to have just gone about as far as the aerodynamics to me, which is okay. That's a decent place to start. The details of that, so they'd flown it in a partial vacuum chamber. Fair enough, but then you've got to cool the whole thing down to, I forget what Mars is, like -30 or something, and see what the survivability of it is. There's a lot of practical issues to deal with there. I mean, none of them are insurmountable. Yeah, they're not fundamentally trying to do something that's obviously bullshit. But
why not glider?
Why not a glider?
Or a Zeppelin.
Yeah.
So the problem with the Zeppelin is they work well with thick atmospheres, but not with thin ones.
Vacuum Zeppelin.
Yeah. So with a lot of these things, Titan is a fantastic place because it's got thick atmosphere and low gravity. So things like Zeppelins, quadcopters, they all work fantastically there. The only problem is you've got no power because you can't do solar, which means you need a thermoelectric generator, which ain't going to be light.
Also, wouldn't the radiation destroy your electronics in days or hours?
Sorry?
Wouldn't the radiation be a problem? Isn't it in a zone of really high radiation?
A lot of the isotope generators, they tend to be heavy alpha emitters.
No, but I mean Titan. Oh no, Titan.
Oh,
yeah,
you're thinking of Europa.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, wrong one.
Oh, yeah. So Titan's Saturn with a really thick,
Yeah, it's not Jupiter.
Not Jupiter.
Yeah. This is the F-35, the MiG-31 I saw, well, one of them. And they were rather close, less than 3,000 feet, so loud enough to wake you up.
So this is what I remember when I was a kid, just being fascinated by these sort of forward-leaning air intakes. They just look so sci-fi.
Yeah, they really do. And the thing is huge. I mean, it's just, it was like a 200mm lens. So...
Hey, you did well to hold it steady.
Oh, well.
Sure. Oh, is that good? That's...
It's flying away now. It's just I took many photos.
But it's undercarriages down, yeah?
It does, yeah. They land like... Well, they did land like a kilometer away. So it's... Oh, no, that's too far. I was in Russia, that's why.
Yeah. People really don't realise how loud these things are.
Yeah.
I don't know if you recall... I guess it was maybe 8 months or a year ago. We had an aircraft approaching London that refused to give its ID, and they scrambled, I think, Typhoons from somewhere, and they went supersonic over London, which is a big no-no.
Yeah.
But that was...
Well, I'll woke everyone up. That's...
Yeah, it was bloody loud. And these things were flying not more than 500 feet off the ground, I guess, trying to catch this airliner.
That's
turned out to be a comm failure of some sort, but it was quite exciting for a good sort of couple of hours while these jets were trying to track this this airliner and causing all sorts of panic in the city. But apart from the sonic noise, the actual noise of the aircraft themselves was fairly substantial.
My parents actually had that sonic boom over their house, and they said their dogs went absolutely loop shit over it.
Yeah,
absolutely raring.
It was very, very loud. And
it's so funny because actually traveling supersonic is very quiet. And it's I've been in the Concorde once, and it's actually a lot less noisy than normal planes are. It was it's a really weird experience. Yeah, inside, of course.
Inside the plane, it's nice and quiet. Out there for everyone else, it's bloody loud.
It's
the engines are in the back.
Sorry?
The engines are at the back, right?
Yes.
But it's a shame about Concorde. You know, if there was anything that Britain once did that the rest of the world didn't, it was supersonic air, and we did that with France as well.
Yeah.
Russians built one.
Sorry?
Well, the Russians built one. It broke apart during
the air show.
I was
fish shuttle.
I was actually with James Bond. Well, Roger Moore was on the plane, so that was fun. Drunk as all hell he was. Yeah, it was fun to see.
Roger Moore or Sean Connery?
Roger Moore. So not really James Bond. James Bond like Goofy Bond. But Goofy, I like Roger Moore as well. I know it's not Sean Connery, but still.
Yeah.
Better than Dalton.
But Concorde was tiny. I mean, it really was almost. This is the diameter of the plane.
Yeah. It's really, really tiny. And the funny thing is that so they have in-flight. You know how they sell like in-flight duty free, right?
Yeah.
And normally it's like packets of cigarettes and perfumes and some silly thing. Here was like, ooh, would you like to buy a Breitling watch? What about a Rolex? That'll be £10,000, please. And people are just going like, oh, having these stacks of money and they're just handing it over because this was before like credit cards and stuff like that. And it's just you're just going through this, £10,000, £5,000, £2,000, and you're just going, oh my God, it's just, do these people actually have this? And you're going, there's this guy looking at a brightly watch. He goes, yeah, I'll have this, and just whips out £2,500 in cash and gives it over to the stewardess. Amazing.
Yeah, that's it's a shame actually that they retired the Concorde.
Amazing.
I mean, Branson offered to buy them all for £1 and basically run them at a loss, as a sort of loss-leading venture, flagship thing. But British Airways refused to sell them to him. Bastards. So after that, they all just became museum pieces.
And unless they caught fire on takeoff, of course.
Yes. Well, I mean, there weren't many of them. I forget what it was. Was there like 11 of them in total or something? You know,
like
6 for the French and 5 for the British, or?
I mean, throw a piece of rubber in a usual aircraft, and they probably have problems as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
but it was. I mean, you're right. Most plane, even Concorde, was bloody safe, but this was something that wouldn't have resulted in the loss of an aircraft on another plane. But the problem with Concorde is it was right at the limits. When they're taken off from France, it was completely fully loaded, and so it's right on the limits of everything.
There are a couple private companies which actually work on their own supersonic or passenger jets currently, which is rather interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what I should think of them, but I mean.
So I think, Concorde was in principle a great idea, and everyone said they were going to buy it until, it's people like Boeing screwed them over and said, after saying they were going to buy some, said, nah, we're not going to buy them. And so they'd spent this huge amount of money developing Concorde, and no one wanted it. Which, when you take a look at it, supersonic booms over land.
It's not fun for the people living underneath it.
Yeah, that's limiting the market.
Yeah, and
plus you needed special gates, right? Because they were so tiny. The normal ramps, the air ramps at airports wouldn't fit. Yeah, so you'd actually have to build a separate Concorde air ramp thing at airports. So this is why they could have done more routes, but there were only a couple of airports in the world that actually could accept Concordes.
Yeah.
I think they should bring back airships.
There are still niche uses for them.
The Thai military.
Yeah. And if I remember rightly, the Americans were working on something like this as a sort of almost satellite thing. It's a balloon that could sort of hang over an area for extended periods of time. Of course, almost beyond the weapons range of anything. That's even if you can tell it's there.
Yeah. But I mean, just for passenger transport.
Yeah. Helium or hydrogen?
Helium.
Yeah. So helium is ludicrously expensive.
Yeah, it's also difficult to keep contained as well.
Yeah.
So is hydrogen. So
I think the way it worked is back with the Hindenburg. One of the reasons why it was full of hydrogen is because the US had embargoed selling helium to Germany prior to World War II. And that's why it was full of hydrogen, I think. I think they wanted to fill them with helium. It's just the Americans wouldn't sell them any. And of course, most of it comes out of there. You get it out of oil wells, I think. So it comes up as in the gas.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah.
I do actually have a question there. Why aren't we running planes on ammonia?
Ammonia is not a bad fuel burning ammonia, I think you probably, I don't know what your problems are like with the nitric oxides, but in terms of hydrogen storage, almost the best that you can get is just regular gasoline. The hydrogen density in regular gasoline is actually higher than the hydrogen density in liquid hydrogen.
Yeah, but we can't
also
make it.
Isn't ammonia just the vapor is deadly to humans?
Yeah, there is that too. Yeah, I've worked with
Instincts,
liquid ammonia. Yeah. It's thoroughly obnoxious stuff. Liquefies at about -30. You can. I have seen viable plans for using it essentially as energy storage, but yeah, you're right. It's a pretty toxic material to use.
Well, it's just that the infrastructure is there, and planes are a big concern when it comes to well, emission.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what the energy density that you can get out of. I don't know whether you can run jet engines on them. I've never seen it done, but that doesn't mean
it has been done.
Okay, I missed
Second World War because it didn't find any jet fuel, so it just ran them on ammonia.
Okay.
Essentially, only somewhere in Norway, I think. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
Only for a short time, but it has been done apparently.
Yeah.
I mean, we've run jet engines on boron hydride, so.
No, once you get up to hydrazine, then we're in a different league. But
yeah,
that's rocket fuel. So I've got one last thing on my to-do list here. Which did any of you come across Amphibio?
No.
No.
It made it on to CNN, and oh my god, it's another one of these artists things. It's an artist who's come out with a great idea of breathing underwater. So I'm going to put that into the links. And all he's really got is some 3D printed crap and a vague claim that he's developed an artificial gill. And some of his back of the envelope calculations check out, apart from when you take a look at what his prototype is and what he needs to do, there's an order of magnitude difference between them. So he says you need about 30 square meters of surface area to create this gill, which is probably not far off wrong. And then you take a look at his suit and you maybe get 2 or 3. Maybe not even that. I mean, no, it's nowhere near that because the skin, the surface area of a human is about 2 square meters. So he's a quarter of that.
Yeah, well, the first thing I see, this is the kind of same with Fontus and same with the one that Dave busted, the battery thing. This is a designer as well. They're all designers, not actually
artists, darling.
Yeah, artists.
Yeah, and you read some of the spiel that goes with it. This guy's not got a clue, you know. Oh, with the rising sea levels, we're going to need to be able to breathe underwater. It's like, actually, we can just settle further inland. There's more under the sea now than there is land.
Or build rafts, you know.
Yeah, or houseboats or something, you know.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, all you're doing is creating new prime beach real estate.
Yeah, yeah. You just have
it's good for property prices. I mean, unless yours is the one that's been submerged. But when you're at the edge again, you know, hey, boom, instant beach.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
House submarines. That's an idea.
Yeah,
living under the sea.
Under the sea. Come dance with me.
So yeah, I want to have a tear them off a strip sometime.
But I mean, the CNN article already mentions that is that the dissolved amount, the amount of oxygen dissolved in the water is just
Nothing. Yeah, I mean,
nothing. It's not for a warm-blooded animal, not for a mammal.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
This is the amazing thing: is that the largest predators in the sea breathe oxygen. They don't get their oxygen from the water because it's not very a good way of doing it.
Sharks manage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
they're also cold-blooded.
Yeah, and not so smart and all that sort of thing.
It's being cold-blooded has the added advantages that don't have to burn energy for heat.
Yes.
On the bright side, so this is I never hear at the beginning. This is the megalodon shark tooth. Yeah.
Lovely.
So the amazing thing is they look almost identical to a great white shark tooth. But apparently I was reading up on the the evolutionary history of these things, that it's probably more their cousins than direct descendants, even though the tooth really does look very, very similar. But yeah, these things are. I really wouldn't like to get poked by one of these.
No.
I wouldn't. I don't want to be near one of those.
Aren't sharks' teeth like serrated on the edges, though?
So this actually is. I don't know if you can see it, but some of this is not a. Some of the nice ones, the ones which are well preserved, they have all of that on them. But those are like thousands of dollars. This one was like 100.
It's very cool, though.
It is. I actually would recommend, if you want to get something interesting for the mantelpiece or something.
Yes.
It's initially I was sort of skeptical about having somebody else's dental work on my mantelpiece, but now that it's actually here, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Is the edge fairly sharp?
Oh yeah, you could. I mean, I don't think you could. Actually, no, you could. You cut your flesh with this.
So it's more cutting than just stabbing.
Oh, yeah, no, they've definitely got edges on these. Actually, that would be the hell of a way to go. Is weapons made from a megalodon tooth.
Well, if the Chinese ever disable our technology, we might have to defend ourselves with megalodon teeth.
There's a certain
If they come back from the dead due to Fukushima radiation.
just like Godzilla.
Yes.
Radiation in the movies always gives you superpowers.
I've seen Fukushima in the news again. I don't remember what it was though. Something stupid.
So I've not checked in with Fukushima. I do know that the guy who was claiming that California was a radioactive wasteland, I checked in on him the other day, and he's still going. I mean, making essentially the same video night after night, saying, the end of the world is here because of Fukushima, and
it's just it's going against the current, so it's taking a little longer to get here, but it'll come here eventually. The tides, just damn tides.
So when I can't remember when I got around to making the video, but I actually went to that exact beach where they were recording the high radiation levels and found the thorium sand.
Nice.
It's giving them the high radiation levels. And I measured the gamma ray spectrum. I can't remember whether I ever put that out as a video or not.
Can't remember.
But
I can't remember seeing it now.
Maybe I didn't get around to it. Okay. I'll check that out, see what I got.
Yeah, I was wondering earlier if it was really worth your time to debunk Space Force.
Oh, it's no. The reason it's fun is because you get to do something called the Table of Death.
Okay.
Which, there are the sort of forces that will kill you and not kill you. So just jumping down from 1 meter in height turns out to be about 1 kilojoule, which might not seem much, but it's actually twice the energy of a bullet. So there's this thing about, the form of the energy. And the energy to boil a human is not just a kilojoule, it's 200 megajoules. So it's a colossal amount of energy just to boil someone, assuming they're, 100 kilos of water. And that's peanuts compared to the energy to put someone into space, which is about a gigajoule. So this is the thing, a kilojoule will kill you, and you've got to put a gigajoule into someone to get them into low Earth orbit, which is one of the reasons why it's insanely dangerous going into space. But that being said, you can safely lose that energy coming back to Earth, but you've got to do it fairly gently.
Which is why the moon is prime real estate, because you could throw rocks from the moon and kill people.
Oh, that's the Brianna Wu thing.
Yeah.
The thing
I love that one.
The thing is that in principle, yeah, but it's like shooting someone with gold bullets. Like the energy. How much did it cost to send someone to the moon?
Billions.
Yeah, and then you're just going to use that to fire rocks back at it. I mean, just launching stuff from the moon would cost an arm and a leg. The biggest thing that we fired from...
What about actually hitting somebody? I mean, at random, sure, but precision.
Yeah.
Well, I was asking because they interviewed some Trump supporters why we needed Space Force, and well, NASA already does all of that, but they're only telling us what they want us to know, and Trump is going to find out the real stuff they don't want us to know, stuff like that, and it's just too easy to make fun of, so I wonder why bother at all. But
he is in some ways leader of the free world.
Yeah, whatever that's supposed to mean.
Yeah. But I mean, there's a load of other things that they potentially thought. I mean, the thing is that almost everything that they were going to do in Space Force, people have thought about this 50 years ago and basically discarded it as either stupid or insanely expensive way of killing people. So one of the more interesting ones was just the kinetic penetrators. You just put kinetic penetrators up in, basically rods of metal. I think they're called rods of God or something. And then you just deorbit them. And of course, they hit the ground at about 10 times the speed of sound. Hey, is that Chernobyl?
That is indeed. I just want to say, because we're speaking about it, that's some proper data which I took less than a month ago.
That's nothing. Is that microsieverts?
That's microsieverts. 1.35, and it's less than 300 meters from the actual reactor.
From the sarcophagus.
Yeah, well, to the reactor inside of it. It's less than 100 to the sarcophagus. So if you ever want to use it.
I never really appreciated until I came across it the other day, is with the Chernobyl reactor. There's a whole bunch of them there, a whole bunch of reactors. And
definitely.
Even after the one that blew up, they kept all of the others running.
Yeah, until like 2002, I think.
Yeah,
something around
so
that.
They built a wall around Chernobyl fairly quickly, so they could keep all of their reactors running.
Yeah,
because they needed the power. Yeah, they were in a. There was nothing else they could run to get power.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they needed power to do the cleanup as well. So
that's the other side. That's like normal. That's 0.26.
That's background. I had the same in Kiev. It's just, and it's the other side. That's reactor 1. It's absolutely nothing.
You get 10 times that on a plane.
Yeah, definitely. So I was rather surprised because it's nothing at all. There were places which I got like 12 microsieverts an hour. Red Forest.
Oh yeah,
Still,
I mean, if you find a fragment of the core, it's hot and it'll kill you. If you get it, in contact with your skin for extended periods of time.
Isn't part of the core still melting downwards?
No.
It's solidified.
it solidifies probably. I mean, what tends to happen is initially it's really hot, so it can melt. But as it melts, it dissolves and it becomes more diffuse. And as it becomes more diffuse, it generates less heat until it basically, it's called corium. It's melted down core that's sort of spread out and it's no longer critical. And it just sits there, doesn't do anything.
Yeah, so it was the hottest I could find. 200 microsieverts.
Yeah. I mean, there are some fairly hot spots if you look for them. Yeah. Yeah,
but not too bad. I mean,
and as long as you don't sort of get it under your fingernails or something.
Yeah, a meter from this piece, it was down to background. So.
Yeah. So if I remember rightly, almost the only radiation that's left is the cesium-137. Yeah.
Yeah, half of strontium-90 and cesium.
But isn't the strontium-90 all sort of aggregated somewhere and
it's less than the cesium.
Yeah.
But they're both. I mean, half-life 30 years. It already dropped by a half since the accident.
Yeah. So with the strontium, it's you can look in two ways. First of all, if you get it in you, it's quite nasty because it gets into your bones. But that also means that it's much less mobile in the environment. That it tends to form insoluble stuff like strontium carbonate, which then just sits around, doesn't do anything. After that, even if you eat it, it just sort of goes. Well, actually, not to be so good. But once you get into some of these insoluble strontium salts, if you eat them, they just go straight through you and dissolve. And for certain, with all the metals like uranium and plutonium, they form carbonates, and then they're just immobile in the environment. They're not soluble in water in any.
Yeah, but most of what you get there is a couple meters below the ground anyway, or at least a couple decimeters. Is that a word? Yeah. Because they removed the whole topsoil and then put new soil on top of it. So yeah.
Well, at which point, you get almost everything in that.
Yeah. And moss, because for some reason it accumulates it.
Bioaccumulates, yeah.
Yeah.
So there have been these reactors where they actually have stuff growing in the water that they keep the old cores cool in, and they actually like that stuff growing because it filters the water and all the heavy metals accumulate in the moss. So you sort of scrape the moss off, and it's cleaned up all the radioisotopes from your water.
This is quite neat. I mean, it's a bit strange because, you like crouch down to take a photo and your alarm is going off. It's quite neat.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right. Once it's outside the body, you don't care that much because it's got to be alphas, because otherwise it would be everywhere. And so, you go another 10 centimeters further away, and the radiation drops by 10 or something.
Yeah. Oh, well, enough photos. But you should go. It's rather pretty.
So, what was the deal for getting there?
You just
sign up for a tour or something.
You sign up for a tour. You fly there. You're collected. You go there. It's literally no problem, unless you're from Russia, because then you can't.
Good. I'm not from Russia.
And if you have a Russian visa, should not show them, as I've learned.
I didn't.
Yeah.
So did you?
They saw it and they made a bit of trouble about it, but it wasn't too big of a deal.
Cool.
Yeah. Anyway, enough of me. So what are you working on?
I've got the tasting deuterium project still rolling along. And so I've got to distill some more for some mice testing. I've got the solvated electrons and ammonia stuff still rolling along, for which I've got to be able to make a solvated electrons in ammonia microjet by December or something, which I'm not so sure I'm going to be able to do, but we'll see how it goes. And some other stuff.
Did you find out what this, well, clear weird droplet is, which you sometimes get when you throw sodium in water?
Yeah, so I managed to capture some of those, which is actually quite tricky because the drop's actually at about 400 degrees Celsius.
And
And it's, so once you've done that, you've got to weigh it, titrate it, and it turns out to be about 50%. It's not sodium hydroxide. It's got a lot of the oxide dissolved in there.
Okay.
So it's a mixture of sodium oxide and sodium hydroxide.
But it's not metallic sodium.
No.
Okay.
And absolutely certainly not. And that's the one that I'm interested in coming back to that one because
sometimes they turn blue.
Sorry?
Sometimes they turn blue. Like they go from black to blue to clear.
That's the solvated electron again. So I've got, I can't remember whether I put any of that up online, but so I've got all this fantastic footage of the black droplet goes blue first, then clear. And it's solvated electrons. Solvated electrons at low concentration are blue. High concentration, they're black. Fiercely absorbing.
Are they actually, or are they just very, very blue?
They're just very, very blue, but they're so blue that even at modest concentration, they basically appear black. I forget what the extinction coefficient of is, but it's
fair enough. Okay.
Tens of thousands sorts of thing. So you need it's like a dye, a minuscule amount, give you a nice colored solution.
Yeah. But I do turn metallic at some point.
At high concentrations, that's the one that we're really interested in because
it's like an electron gas, I guess.
Exactly, but
Fermi gas, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm not even sure what a Fermi gas is, but
gas of fermions at low temperatures, so every state is occupied, and it's essentially at 0 degrees. So it has energy even though it's essentially at 0 degrees.
Okay. But you've got liquid ammonia and you dissolve sodium in it. So is there any other metal that you can dissolve in a non-metallic substance?
I have no idea. I'm not a chemist.
I mean, for me, it's crazy. I mean, ammonia is almost water. Yeah. It's NH3 versus OH2. And why should electrons dissolve in ammonia? And as far as it's a sort of property of nitrogen, so other amines and such like will do it, but ammonia is just a king. That you get these, if you put enough sodium in there, you get to this state which actually conducts electricity better than copper. So if you got your lithium, it conducts worse than copper. If you've got your ammonia, it conducts a lot worse than copper. But you put the two together, and even though their electrons are more dilute than they are in the lithium, because you've sort of diluted it to make a solution, the conduction is actually higher than copper, and it's at minus 50 degrees Celsius or something.
That's rather strange.
Fermi
energy should decrease. I'll have to have a look in that.
Yeah, and so it's one of these at very high concentrations. You've got spin paired states. No, hang on. High concentrations, you've got a metallic band, and then as you add more and more ammonia, eventually there's a phase transition where it goes from a metallic liquid to a very dark blue solution. And at high concentration, you got electrons that are spin paired, and at low concentrations, they're isolated electrons. So those are the three states that we're kind of interested in looking at. But
it's not that the Fermi temperature is going below the environmental temperature, is it?
The Fermi temperature.
As in, where you can assume it to be a Fermi gas at 0 Kelvin to just being a gas of particles. So where quantum effects don't take effect anymore.
Quantum effects have to take. I mean, certainly when it's just a single electron.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's just when you get so many that they, can't.
Form a band structure.
Well, rather they're not enough states anymore to just have them freely change their states. Because only one electron can be in one state, right? Fermion.
Yes. Yeah.
So, do you know the Fermi temperatures of these mixtures?
Not got a clue.
That would be quite interesting.
So yeah, okay. I'll see what I can do about.
I will read your paper when it's out.
Yeah. So at the moment, we've just been sort of mastering handling liquid ammonia, which is, boils at -30, stinks, really stinks. It's quite funny actually because a load of the people in the lab they're not seasoned chemists, so for them, initially. They get a slight whiff of ammonia and it's like, oh no, this is terrible, I'm going to be poisoned. Yeah, ammonia it stinks like hell. Yeah, it's kind of toxic, but
not really. I mean, your body produces it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not like cyanide or something like that. It's
half-life
very metallizable. It's something your body can handle fairly easily. But after about a couple of weeks of getting progressively larger sort of whacks of ammonia, they realize that it's not that big of a deal.
But it's not really that bad of a smell in low concentrations.
No.
It's either not too bad or it burns your nose away. So
at high concentrations, it's genuinely like getting hit in the face. You get a decent sniff of ammonia and it's boom, and it's the same with the eyes. But with a lot of this stuff, right, once you know the hazard, all right, I'm trying to put some stuff together and I'm getting it in my face. All I need to be able to, I know that if I just hold my breath, I can finish up here and then just sort of take a few steps back and it'll all be fine.
Just get one of these full face masks.
Yeah.
And free filter. Yeah. I mean, $30 and you're there.
Yeah. We didn't think of that, but but I mean, for me, it's.
I worked in a clean room and cleaned it with ammonia, or cleaned parts of ammonia, and the air is recycled. So I didn't really have a choice. At some point, I just bought, a gas mask, and there you go.
Yeah. Although there is actually something to be said for being able to get the quality of the air. If there's lots of ammonia. This is the other thing. If you've got fume cupboards, it's not. You almost never get it in your face anyway. So. But the problem comes is once you've got a big flask full of liquid ammonia, because it just sort of sits there because it's like water. It's got this huge latent heat of vaporization.
So like liquid, as in cryogenic.
Yeah, so it's only -30. But the thing is, it looks like water. It doesn't boil like liquid nitrogen. Liquid nitrogen boils really easily.
Yeah.
Because takes 10 times less energy to boil liquid nitrogen than liquid ammonia. So it just looks like water, apart from it stinks. And if you get the stuff on you, you get really quite nasty cryogenic burns off it.
So no Leidenfrost effect then?
No.
Oh god.
So you get the full whack.
With liquid nitrogen, you just dunk your fans in it and you're fine.
Yeah.
For fun, so
it's two things. The first you get the Leidenfrost effect, nice blanket. And secondly, it takes almost no energy to that. In fact, I was going to do that. It's just a fun little thing. Is I did the bit where you throw ice into water, dry ice into water, then liquid nitrogen. Because you throw the same mass of liquid nitrogen into water, you get almost no cooling off it whatsoever. I would guess it's 1/10 as effective as ice in terms of cooling. Obviously, not if you pour a liter of it in there, it'll go down to whatever.
Well, tell that crazy Russian hacker.
Yes, yeah. Okay, guys.
Was he the one that was it the air conditioner that kills you?
Carbon dioxide. Yeah, he was doing.
Oh God,
dry ice, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it's quite fun actually. Outside the department where I work, they get the stuff delivered by the cubic meter. So there is, and a cubic meter of that stuff's 3 tons, I think. So there's literally sort of 3 tons of this stuff just sitting there in this big cube.
Okay,
kind of fun.
Well, just quickly, what your idea on carbon sequestration through and just kind of pumping it into the ground? Because here in Holland, the plan is to use the old gas fields and to start pumping CO2 into them as kind of a climate change thing. I was wondering, is that doesn't it cost more energy to kind of trap it out of the air and pump it in than?
So it depends how you're getting it out of your air. I mean, if you're just trying to pull it out of air regularly, yeah, this is 300 parts per million. Now there are sort of 2-stage things that you can do. You sort of chemically trap it in a what are they called? A sort of desiccant dehumidifier type trick that you chemically absorb it, and then once your chemical absorbent's full of the CO2, then you cook it to a couple of 100 degrees, get your CO2 off. It's a more effective way of doing it, but it's still, in many ways, you're much better off just getting your power plant where you know all the carbon dioxide's coming straight out of your chimney, and you just condense it from there and pump it back into the ground. Right? Okay. Then you save yourself an awful lot of effort in trying to get the carbon dioxide out of the air at 300 parts per million.
Or just plant a lot of trees.
Trees, it turns out, are good for the first 40 years or something, but then the trees just die and the carbon dioxide goes back into the atmosphere.
Yeah, just keep renewing the trees. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but you know what I mean? That you've got to actually cover the whole world with trees. You can't.
I could live with that.
Yeah.
We just pump it to Mars. There you go.
Yeah. What?
Put it in rockets. 10 rockets a day to make it efficient.
Oh man. Yeah.
Trash X.
It's pretty impressive, the booster landings, but
yeah, 10 methane powered rocket flights per day.
Why not just add some spent nuclear rods in there as well while you're at it?
Yeah, or
I mean, that was Cassini essentially.
But I mean, once you get out to Saturn, though, it's got to be nuclear.
Yeah, it's true.
There's no light out there.
It's just people weren't happy when they launched that thing.
Yeah. Although apparently it's a big problem now with the new space flights is there weren't many places that made these isotopes or isolated them. And I think there's a real shortage of radioisotope generators.
Yeah, because there are no nuclear reactors anymore, or well, less and less.
Oh, they're not making the right isotopes.
Germany used to make them from spent fuel.
Yeah, so I was actually really surprised. I was checking this out the other day. I didn't think that Germany had any nuclear reactors, but it turns out it's like 25% of the electricity in Germany is nuclear.
I think they are shut off now, or they're going to be shut off.
I know that
I'm not going to be honest.
Is to get rid of them all, but yeah,
it's a bit weird.
Yeah.
Also,
I'll check if they shut off.
Where are we going to get the iridium for radio medicine?
France.
Yeah, well, they're building new reactors next to the border.
So I know whether you've been keeping track of the Brexit stuff, but that's the one that everyone's now sort of deer in the headlights about, is that we make almost none of our own medicines, particularly in the form of insulin and radioisotopes. They're almost exclusively imported. And so there are stories about stockpiling insulin, which is...
That doesn't sound like good. It's not even that hard to make, is it? You just need a genetically modified fungus to do it.
I thought it was I don't know how they make insulin. It used to be pigs, but...
They do it with a genetically modified fungus now. Or bacteria, I think.
Yeah.
I've booked a holiday in Great Britain for next year. And
it's going to be cheap.
Yeah, I just found out that that there is a possibility that there's going to be a visa needed, because they haven't really sorted that one out, really. That could be annoying.
So the other things that I was hearing is, because there's zero, if it all goes tits up and it goes to the crash out scenario, there is zero chance of, well, you saw what HS2 was like. The idea that these people are going to suddenly be able to become magically efficient and sort out all of the visas and all this sort of thing, it's just never going to happen.
No.
So the contingency plan is they're just going to basically throw open all of the borders, because there's nothing else that can be done. And yeah,
It must have drug prices are going to crash then. If they're going to have open borders anyway. Smuggler's paradise.
Well, yeah. They within a week, that entire encampment of refugees in Calais will have moved across the border, because if they're not going to inspect any of the trucks because they don't have the facilities to do any of it.
How is exactly throwing open the border taking back control?
Yeah.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Patriotism is rather dangerous, or can be dangerous. No country is truly great. So
yeah.
But unfortunately, Holland's going to suffer as well. The economy here, it's
going to hurt Europe. But the bottom line is, it's about 2% of Europe's economy and 10% of Britain's economy. So I think the attitude is slowly changing to.
Do you think they're going to end up with the Brexit that with a Europe deal that they thought they had, but now are going to get? So how they're always going like, hey, it's undemocratic and we have no. I see some kind of EEA, European Economic Area type deal being made at the last minute, because I don't think anybody on either side really wants a no deal Brexit. In which case they're they're going to end up with no say over the rules. They get no reciprocation or worse terms and deals when it comes to paying in and what they get back. All the things that they were complaining about are actually going to become true.
Yeah.
And the tragic thing is, people in Britain are starting to understand, and current polls, I think, show that they would support now to stay in the EU by a good margin. And now it's just, forward unto dawn, no going back and so on, which I don't really understand why you can't just say, okay, let's just not do it. But
the last one was kind of an uninformed decision. But
sovereignty.
The whole thing's just a car crash in slow motion, if you ask.
Freedom.
Yeah.
So okay, I hear at least 2 British accents in the room.
Yeah.
What's your feeling about how you've got the ear to the ground here?
Well, not really.
Yeah, right.
I'm unfortunately living here too for the next 2 years, at least 2 years. So
so how do you think it's going to?
As soon as uni is done, I'm back to Germany.
You don't mind if I hop along with you, do you? Because it's been a complete mess over when it's done.
Yeah, it's not necessarily because it's really expensive here in Oxford, obviously, and it's not like I don't like it here. It's just not stable enough. It's just too big of a risk. So, yeah.
Yeah. The problem is that you're not getting any clear pictures from either side.
Yeah.
Everyone's shouting as loud as they can for their ideology on both sides, and it's still an uninformed choice.
Yeah, I mean, I've often thought that, you know, once you get up to these sort of complicated things that almost no one understands, this really isn't the sort of subject that you want referendums over.
No.
You want people who, you know, it's like having a referendum over what you think heart surgery should be.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that the whole point of like representative democracy? Oi, you guys know what you're talking about. You know, I'll vote for you. You go ahead and really do a deep dive into these issues and do it for us. This is kind of what we want.
Yeah, the problem is that democracy is fine, providing that the electorate is intelligent enough to make an informed choice.
People are easily manipulated, especially by emotions.
Yes.
It's just human nature.
Well, that was the big thing that came out of the Analytica leaks is, they were brazen about it, that facts don't determine elections, emotions do.
Yeah.
All you got to do is, it's more about provoking the right emotions than making the right arguments.
Yeah, and blatant lies like the NHS joke.
They never said it.
They put it on a bus. They put it on a fucking bus.
They wrote it on a bus. They didn't say it.
Right. Well, as a German, I'm probably not impartial, but what kind of negotiating partner did you expect after voting to leave? It's not going to be a good negotiating situation, because if the EU goes soft on Britain, we're going to have mutiny on our hands. So, what kind of negotiation partner would you like?
Well, I mean, I could see that there was an argument along these lines, but I've not seen it in practice. All I've seen is the British government running around like headless chickens.
Yeah.
And the EU basically sort of saying, well, you got a choice. You can either take the full freedoms and stay in the common market, or you can leave and, that's it. Which, I mean, there were and still are all sorts of problems with the EU. But I don't actually see that there's really been any. Well, there's not really even been an option for the EU to sort of try and punish Britain yet. But even if they could, it's what's the point? These people, you need to be able to trade freely with these people.
Yeah.
Because they're your neighbours. It's a big.
And not only that, but the various economies are all inextricably linked.
Yeah.
I wonder if you talk to the Brexit people, you can go like, "Hey, you know what? I could give you a free trade deal tomorrow with the top 10 or 9 of the top 10 of your trading partners. How would that sound? Wouldn't that be great? A free trade agreement." Right. It's called the single market. It's the EU. You already have one.
Yeah, exactly. And
personally,
that was always the thing that bugged me is even if you did the Brexit thing, eventually you're just going to end up more or less where you were to begin with.
Yes.
Which is with a load of trading agreements with more or less the people you had before. And the thing is that the actual change itself costs a grotesque amount of money and causes a grotesque amount of time wasting in the meantime to more or less get to exactly where you were to begin with.
Yes. Yeah. The consensus as I perceive it from people around me is that nothing really will change. for most people.
With the exception of the No Deal, which is probably 5 to 10% of the economy for the foreseeable future. Yeah, but I mean it screws over Europe as well, but
of course,
screws over Britain more.
Yes. Aye, we get screwed over, and we didn't even vote for it.
Yeah, well, and Britain asked to join the EU 3 times.
I know.
But
they were blocked every time by France, who are now the only people in Europe who want Brexit more than the British.
Well, I never understood this. I never understood this Great Britain France thing.
Thank you so much, Britain, for having to say that the French were right. Oh.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, guys,
that's the worst part of it. Now we have to say, God damn it, De Gaulle was right.
After all this time. Anyway, guys, I think I'm going to wrap it up there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
All right.
It's been great hanging out with you all.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're going to do it all again next month.
Next month.
What? Next month? Well,
hopefully sooner.
Hopefully sooner.
We'll see how it goes. Okay. Thanks, guys.
All right. Cheers.
Cheerio.
Adios.
Bye.
Bye.